Okay, I said that we would talk about doing a secondary fermentation or a racking at a certain point. When I say racking, I mean siphoning, for those who aren't into the terminology. I always try and keep things as simple as possible because I think we can get terribly confused with jargon, and a lot of people have never heard of it, so why do we even talk about it? Anyway, that's me. A lot of the wine kits on the market, especially the ones which come in from overseas, from places like Canada, which have suddenly become like the world's expert for producing top quality wine kits, a lot of the overseas wine kits suggest that we do a racking or a siphoning at 10-10. So when the gravity is dropped to 1010, we can then siphon it off the sediment into another container. So one of the reasons why we've had the second container with the starter kit, so that you've got the facility to be able to do that. Now, as I say, that's something which is more recommended with the better quality wine kits. It's not that ours is not good quality, the Wineworks Superior, but the main reason for wanting to do a secondary fermentation and a racking is there's a lot of dead yeast cells that appear with the yeasts which are used. Those dead yeast cells tend to fall to the bottom of the container and are very, very obvious in the first 5 or 6 days. So the reason the Canadians like to do a racking is because they've got these dead yeast cells at the bottom. Their fermentation takes nearer 10 days. They then leave it in the container for another 10 days, and then they leave it in the container for a further 10 days to mature. So in a lot of cases, they've been in the container for over 30 days. So they do a racking at 10-10 to get it off the dead yeast cells and to get it into a fresh container, so that when it's being left, they're not picking up any of the flavors from the dead yeast cells. So with our kits, what we've done is we've tailor-made a kit. I've used a lot of my experience over the years that I've gained to produce a kit that is designed for fairly quick drinking. Because of that, we've obviously had to work the yeast a little bit harder. So the yeast is obviously producing the alcohol necessary for the wine in a fairly short space of time. So from start to finish, on these particular kits, both the premium and the superior wine kit, we're going to get them through the container and into bottles in probably less than 2 weeks. So the benefits of getting it off the dead yeast cells are not so strong. Having said that, if you would like to do that, do a racking at 10-10 or a siphoning at 10-10, then all we do is we siphon it, leaving the sediment behind, into the second container. And we can then let the final fermentation take place in the second container. So I think that is covering that particular part, and the reason why we do the 2 containers so that you can do that. We also find that if you're going to leave it for any length of time in the secondary fermenter, then again we should be looking at perhaps using this particular container, because this one actually is 23 litres. So we don't end up with a lot of headspace when the fermentation is finished and getting the potential chance of an infection. This one, we don't have the headspace. But I think that is something that we'll need to talk about at a later stage when you start looking at producing better quality wine kits. At this stage, we're trying to produce a very drinkable wine that's ready fairly quickly. And I think we will achieve that from these particular kits.